Hey everybody, it's 49ers Plus Minus. I'm Tim Kawakami with my co-host. It's Matt Barrows of The Athletic, who did a solo pod yesterday, just sneakily just put one up there. I looked wow, let's see how Barrows did. And you didn't swear or screw up anything that I know of. So I always appreciate that, holding up the syncopation of this show. But this is your official midweek or late week 49ers Plus Minus episode. Topic du jour has to be Brock Purdy. Practiced again today, Thursday, for the second time this week. Limited. Presumably that probably means he didn't do team drills, or there were some things that he kept out of. You saw him at the start of practice, the part that media is allowed to watch. How did he look?
Well, he looked like he did on Wednesday, which it's hard to tell anything because they're just doing their individual drills at that point. I thought the slight difference was that on Wednesday, he was definitely the third quarterback to go through all the drills. He was definitely the guy who was easing his way back into practice. So he not only was behind Mac Jones, he was behind Adrian Martinez on Wednesday. On Thursday, that changed a little bit. It seemed like he was in the number 2 spot. But still, Mac Jones, the first guy through the drills, the guy that right now they seem to be planning on playing against the Cardinals. And I would imagine the Cardinals are preparing for Mac Jones. And then, both of those guys spoke at the podium. And
oh, really? Both? Wow, interesting.
Yeah, they both did. So that's, if you're not familiar, the starting quarterback for the 49ers talks on Thursday. The last guy to talk on Thursday. So that they'll have Robert Saleh, they'll have Clay Kubiak, and then they'll open the locker room, and then the quarterback talks at the end of that session. Well, they brought both guys to the podium today. So first it was Mac Jones, and then it was Brock Purdy. And he was definitely not like, gung-ho, like, I'm definitely going to play. I'm definitely going to push it to be out there. I thought the money quote or the money phrase he used was, I'm trying to do the right thing with my body. So, I mean, he's properly cautious about it. And he said things like, I'm day-to-day, game time decision. So, I'm not saying that he's not going to play, but if you were parsing his words, and if you were reading body language, which I know Tim Kawakami loves to do.
Only kickers. Only kickers.
He's better with kickers than other positions. But I would say that, it's probably still going to be Mac Jones who faces the Cardinals, and that probably we're going to see Brock Purdy against the Jaguars the following week.
It's been brought up by others. It does sort of make sense as I listen to you and I kind of try to deduce what they're doing with practice. If he wasn't going to play at all, like, no, you would want Martinez getting as many reps as possible, right? At least as the two, very few team drills, but you get to do scout drills too. I would doubt that Purdy's doing scout drills, who knows? But I would think maybe he's the 2. Purdy's the 2, just to have him dress. Mac Jones is going to lead the way, and if there's any other reason that he can't play, you don't necessarily want to go to Adrian Martinez. Maybe Brock Purdy's the 2. Don't think you can select. You can't dress 3 and pick who the 2 is, right? As the moment is, you have to kind of designate who the 2 is and who the 3 is. But I just think if he's getting reps, if he's, maybe just individual drilled reps, but I kind of want Martinez getting reps if he's definitely going to be the 2. The way I'm thinking about it. You think that makes sense?
It does. Well, 2 things. One, I asked Shanahan on Wednesday whether it's possible Purdy could be the, emergency backup. And he was very kind of eager to answer that. Yes, that's a possibility. So they may have already thought about that. And then in my highly successful solo pod yesterday, it really felt like I had a lot of freedom yesterday.
Oh, you were
to do whatever I wanted. It was great. It was my Paul McCartney solo career. I thought that maybe it could depend on, if Mac Jones left the game, if it's, on the first drive that he leaves the game, do you want Purdy playing essentially a full game? Or would that be where Adrian Martinez would come in if Mac Jones got hurt, in a tight game in the fourth quarter? Maybe that would be Brock Purdy times. But so I don't know, but I think I would predict that Brock Purdy doesn't start, but that Brock Purdy is in uniform and available for this game on an as-need basis, which would be a departure from last week.
But wouldn't they have to designate it if he is the third quarterback? Do they not have?
Yeah, they have to designate it because the third quarterback
only can play in the fourth quarter. Correct? I think that's it.
Yeah, and
or if he plays, the other guys can't come back. Something like that.
Right, and you can put him on. He can be one of your inactives. He's your third quarterback. He's in uniform. He's officially inactive unless he has to play, and maybe that's Brock Purdy for this game. So that could be a way that they sort of engineer it so that they don't have to put so many guys on the inactive list for the game day inactive list. They're going to have to bring up Martinez, I would think. But I don't really know who the second guy that they bring up from the practice squad is, because they've already brought up Curtis Robinson, the linebacker. They've already brought up Braden Willis, the tight end, who plays a little bit of fullback too. Kyle Juszczyk was back at practice today. He's trending towards playing, so I don't think that they have to worry about that. But, in case there's a setback or something like that, they would need that. So I'm not exactly sure who the second call-up will be on.
I got a sneaky one for you. How about Junior Bergen, and you had put Sky Moore deactivated, and you give another guy a chance to catch punts. I don't know.
Well,
that's something like that. That's what I would maybe something sneaky like that.
The issue is that, and I was watching this guy at practice today, and I thought to myself, oh, he is champing at the bit. He's going to be back sooner than later in the lineup. And that guy was Jordan Watkins, who on Wednesday wasn't even on wasn't even listed. Sometimes they'll list the guy and with the injury and say he was a full participant. He wasn't even on it. Today, however, he suffered a calf injury during the practice.
Wow.
So I don't know how serious it is, but if it is, one of these calf injuries that, they're very kind of hesitant to bring the guy back with it. Maybe it's a, Christian McCaffrey calf injury. This year calf injury. He doesn't miss any time.
Not 2024.
They're already when you're a rookie on this team and you miss time, you just get buried. And so if he's got two back-to-back, that's going to be tough. But two back-to-back would bring some clarity to that position in the coming weeks when Demarcus Robinson comes back, when Brandon Ayuk comes back, et cetera. So, so they probably will be without I thought that Watkins would probably be a healthy scratch for this game anyway, but he might be out for longer than that. We'll see what Shanahan says on Friday.
Let's try to get back to the quarterback. I shouldn't have skipped over that so fast, but you did in the very popular Barrow Solo show. You did say it's probably don't risk it with Purdy, and it does feel like that's the way this would go. But I'm going to underline that. I'm just going to reinforce. I agree with that opinion. You might lose it without him. That's not great. It's a division game. You don't want that to happen. But you are 2-0. I think you feel pretty good about having Mac Jones as the backup throwing the ball. I think you're not guaranteed to win if you play Brock Purdy, and you are definitely risking that injury getting worse. And what you don't want to do is completely push all your chips on the table in week 3, get Brock Purdy's toe. We saw what happened with Joe Burrow, and then you're looking at scariness going in the rest of the season. And, it should be risk is always trying to be downplayed. You never want to put your starting quarterback at risk. But when you have Mac Jones, you really don't need to. Like, you just, at this point, you don't want to say if we have less chance to win with Mac Jones, right? You always want to have their greatest chance to win. But I think you have a solid chance. And I think you still can easily win the division if you lose this game also. The combination of those two things, if Brock Purdy isn't feeling absolutely tremendous, then yes, feel good about it. Get him close this time. Don't play him, and then have him ready to go for Jacksonville. And that gets him a week to feel even better, play himself into shape. And then you got that big game, week 5 game in LA, which is surely going to be the biggest game on their first 5. So I'm agreeing with you, Barris. Unless you're contradicting yourself, I think you might agree with that.
I agree with that totally. And that was the read you got from Purdy when he spoke. He's not 100% confident with it right now. He's getting more comfortable with it. But, does that change by Sunday? Maybe it does. But again, why push it this early in the season with the two win luxury that you've given yourself? You've given yourself the ability to be a little bit more cautious and be a little bit more forward thinking than we've really got to win this game. It's week 3, but the Cardinals are 2-0, and the Cardinals are coming in with some injuries too. They've got a very good defense. They've got a defensive minded head coach, but they have big time injuries at cornerback, and that's going to affect them, I think. They've got one of the best safeties in the league. Is this guy a Hall of Famer, Buda Baker? I mean, he just seems like
For the 49ers game.
Yeah, exactly.
49ers games, he sure is.
He gets a unanimous vote from the 49ers.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Fame guy, Hall of Fame of making Trey Lance look like he can't play quarterback in the NFL is what he was, because he showed that Trey Lance could not turn a corner on him. I remember that very clearly. That was not great. Not a great moment in 49ers history, not a great moment in Trey Lance history, but Buda Baker can play. I know he bugs, right? Did Shanahan bring him up? I mean, he almost always does when you ask him about the Cardinals defense.
Well, Saleh did today, and Saleh gave him plenty of roses. But Saleh gives roses to everybody.
Yes, he does.
But yeah, that's going to be. I mean, I think that'll be interesting to see if Mac Jones, with maybe Kendrick Bourne a little bit more in tune with the offense. I think that Juwan Jennings is going to play.
Okay.
He was out there doing some side stuff, very much like last week, and he practiced on the Friday before last week, and then ended up, with 78 yards, a touchdown, and a very good game. It could have been a better game for him, but it was still a solid game. So he'll have his full complement of receivers when you're talking about, the early season crew for them. And then Kyle Juszczyk will probably be back too. So you got your McCaffrey, your Juszczyk, your Jake Tonjes, who's becoming a trusted target for any quarterback that's in there. So that's sort of the offense defense matchup. And then the reverse matchup with the 49ers. It's funny, the last time Robert Saleh was here coaching the 49ers defense, the Cardinals were like a team that had, 3 or 4, small, fast wide receivers. They used a lot of 3 and sometimes 4 wide receiver sets. They were sort of, pushing the envelope in that direction. This go around, though, they're basically a tight end driven team. They've got one of the better tight ends in the league in Trey McBride. They've got a big bodied wide receiver in Marvin Harrison. So it's a different Cardinals offense, a different Cardinals mindset than, we've been used to, conditioned for in this rivalry. But and that also plays into the 49ers strength too. I mean, the strength of their defense is their linebackers and their ability to cover. So that's something that D. Winters and Fred Warner have done really well in these first 2 games. I know it didn't always kind of show up with Juwan Johnson on Sunday, but Saleh was talking today about how that was just a great kind of throw and catch by Spencer Rattler and the tight end, that the coverage really couldn't have been any better from Marquise Siegel, the rookie safety on that. He was there, but Johnson just came down with the ball.
The one constant from Saleh's time with the Cardinals is Kyler Murray, of course. Not the greatest quarterback statistically, not the greatest quarterback wins and losses overall, but he is tough on the 49ers. Last year was not a great year for him, and you look up his stats, and he really hurt him running the ball in one game, and he really hurt throwing the ball. The 49ers season was over by the time they played him the second time, but threw, I think, 4 touchdowns. Really was in control of that game. It's just a tough guy for the 49ers to get down. And there's a couple. Russell Wilson clearly was one of those guys. Kyler Murray is one of the guys. Josh Allen obviously has been one of those guys. Uh, I wrote a little bit about this for tomorrow, just in our predictions piece. Like, who the 49ers have a guy who could take him down? The 49ers have that. They haven't had that guy for the last couple of years. Who's the guy on the 49ers who could corral at least Kyler Murray when he takes off on one of those things?
Well, I mean, I would think that D. Winters certainly has the speed to do it. Marquise Siegel, yeah, I think he's only had one missed tackle, including the preseason and in the first two games. So he's been a good, solid, open field tackler. That requires him coming in from the secondary and taking him down. Saleh described Kyler Murray today as a late slider. So he's a guy that, gets out of the pocket. You're not quite sure if he's going to keep running, and then he does the late slide, and then you get penalized for roughing the quarterback. And that's something that happened to Dre Greenlaw a few times. I forget what season it was, but it was a Cardinals win. It was a close game, and there were a couple of drives extended by late hits from Dre Greenlaw, and we saw a very Dre Greenlaw-like hit from D. Winters on Spencer Rattler on the sideline. But yeah, I mean, you kind of think about that last play of the Saints game where Rattler gets tripped up by that brilliant, pass rush from Bryce Huff. But if you look at it, if Rattler somehow was able to step out of that ankle tackle, every single 49ers defensive lineman was beyond him at that point. They rush up the field. There's nobody back sort of waiting. That's their defensive mentality. And somebody like Kyler Murray can really, really take advantage of that and gouge them. All you do is you send in your receivers deep. The linebackers and the secondary go with them. And then there's a gigantic gap between the defensive line and then that first 49ers jersey there. So I'm sure, Saleh is cognizant of that. They've got that in the back of their minds. They can't allow those easy corridors for him because it'll be something that he just exploits.
The guy the 49ers used to have who could do that, mostly with Russell Wilson, but I think a few times with Kyler Murray, was DeForest Buckner. Like, that was a guy, like, he would get pressure, but there were times he did not run past the quarterback, and he was always kind of there for that secondary. Pocket collapses, quarterbacks escaping, and there's DeForest Buckner there to grab it. He was great at recovering fumbles. I pointed that out too before. 49ers have not had a guy like Armstead wasn't like that so much. They haven't had the other secondary non-Bosa guy. I'm saying Mykel Williams, that's where he could really show some value, specifically with those breakaway quarterbacks who hurt the 49ers. Obviously, there was a quarterback who hurt them on fourth down in a Super Bowl in overtime. Just like have your eye on the quarterback. That was a run play. It's a little different, but just that kind of slip away. All of a sudden, the quarterback looked like he could run for 11 yards in the middle. And then, no, wait a minute. It's a sack for 2 yards because there's somebody kind of athletic enough to catch him. And Mykel Williams, I think, is their best shot at it. He's a different player than DeForest Buckner, I know. But he's that kind of, Armstead, Buckner, lengthy, nice, athletic, instinctual player. So I think he's going to be a good player. I think we've said that from the beginning since we've seen him. He just looks like a pro already. And if you look like a pro in your first days as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old rookie, you're probably going to be a very good pro when you're 25. He could add a ton of value to himself for the 49ers for the rest of his career if he's just a guy who can chase down the quarterback like that. I'm just curious. I don't expect the Cardinals to go up and down the field. I don't expect Kyler to just throw wherever he wants to. I expect there's going to be some tough plays, some third and longs, sometimes when they just got to get them off the field. They have not been able to do that. And like we saw with Buckner, mostly with Russell Wilson, they solved their Seattle problem in many ways, I think, because DeForest Buckner was so good catching Russell Wilson. Let's see if Mykel Williams can do that with Kyler Murray. It would be very interesting to see. So I'm throwing that one in as my nominee. What other points you got about the team? I was going to ask about Juwan Jennings. I thought maybe he would be a non-play, but you know what? Because he hasn't practiced much, because it's a second injury, because he didn't look great on those two passes at the end of the last game. But he is a tough guy. Like, he's a guy that wants to play. So I can imagine him, trying to do everything he can to play. I thought maybe that he might be a cross-off, but this is a division game. and it's back on the grass, so maybe everybody's a go. It's like they're almost embarrassingly healthy, other than the quarterback, Barrows. All these players we're used to saying they're not going to play. We haven't even mentioned Trent Williams, who I'm sure is going to play, but has not practiced usual. I don't even know. Barrows, is he even going to practice this year? He may not practice very much this year.
He was a limited participant today, so I think that means that Trent Williams is going to play. He's somebody that doesn't really need to practice during the week. He just needs to kind of test it out before the game. But he practiced. His backup, however, Spencer Burford, did not practice. He was on a stationary bike at the beginning of practice. I think that they're worried about that knee, and I think that they suspect that it might need surgery. So he might not be available for a while. So remember what we were talking about all summer was that Spencer Burford practiced exclusively at left tackle, and Austin Pleasance practiced exclusively at right tackle. And I think that finally has changed this week with Austin Pleasance getting at least some left tackle snaps. So he would be in uniform. He's been a healthy scratch the first 2 weeks, and he'd be the first guy off the bench at either right or left. And left is the concern. You've got a guy who tends to get hurt and who is hurt already. He's got an existing injury, a knee injury for Trent Williams. And now you've got a guy that didn't play left tackle at all in the spring, in the summer, who could be going in there. Their backup is Brandon Parker, who's an ex-Raider who was with this team in 2024 and who's now on the practice squad. He might be the second guy who's elevated for this game, although I don't think that they would, because they've only had one backup tackle for the first two. I imagine they'll have the same thing going on for this game as well. But we've been talking about this since March. This is the weak spot tackle situation. If there's one injury, then you really kind of see the threadbare nature of it. And even if it's to the backup, even if it's to Spencer Burford, you start to think, oh, gee, what's going to happen if Trent Williams has to leave for a couple of series or, half a game or something like that. So won't be ideal. And then you would have Mac Jones, possibly not the most fleet of foot guy in the pocket, having to deal with a neophyte, really, when it comes to left tackle, protecting his blind side.
And there's no Jalen Moore on this roster. There's no, like, this guy, we know we could play that left tackle. That's gone. And I'll just say for the millionth time, I might point out, it's never terrible to just keep drafting tackles, even if you don't love the guy. You have him there, he's in your system, and you can feel like, okay, if we need this guy to play 3 games, he can play left tackle. Jalen Moore was that guy. They had him. Credit to them. They developed him. He signed elsewhere for a lot of money. He's not playing for the Chiefs, but he signed with the Chiefs for a lot of money. The not having another one is always going to baffle me a little bit, but maybe they're thinking, if Trent Williams gets hurt, what the hell? What are they going to do? I don't know if that's a great way to approach it, but it's kind of the way it's been, and it's kind of the way I think it is right now. And let's just see if 49er fans want to see 71 out there healthy, because they don't have a whole lot other than that. All right, Barrows, you got anything else on this ball game?
Just what you said about Juwan Jennings, and your thought was that he might not play because you're adding an injury to another injury. They would be at a disadvantage if he doesn't play, but they'd be a little bit better off than they would have been without Jennings in New Orleans, because Kendrick Bourne just has one more week in this offense, one more week working with Jones and getting used to Jones again. And I think that he would be the 1-for-1 substitute if Juwan Jennings doesn't play. And then you would get, if there's no Watkins in the game, and I don't think there would be, you would get a lot of MVS. Maybe Justin Gage is the second practice squad guy.
Russell Gage.
Did I say Justin? Oh boy, Russell Gage. Yeah. For some reason, I want him to be Justin Gage so bad.
Yeah, okay, we can go with that.
Yeah, that is the name of an ex wide receiver. Different type of receiver, though. I think Justin Gage was a very big guy. Russell Gage is more of a finesse player. And then you have Sky Moore too. So would not be the an all-star cast of wide receivers if Juwan Jennings can't play. We'll have to wait for Friday. I think that'll be kind of definitive. If he does his Friday practice again, then he's probably good to go on Sunday.
One thing, I mean, I'm looking at Kenny Changer's game. Oh, 3 catches, 30-something yards, not huge, but compared to everybody else, not named, Pearsall or Jennings, it's 3 times more than everybody else, basically. They don't have any catches, right? Nobody else has catches, right?
Yeah, MVS has 1 target, and it was like the worst. I don't know whose fault it was, but that was the one that he sticks his hand out at the very last minute and prevents an interception. It's that far behind him. So something was off on that throw. Yeah. So I was in a mailbag earlier this week. The question was posed, okay, what do the 49ers do with all these receivers once Robinson comes back, once Ayuk is back in the fold, once Watkins is good to go? And my initial thought was, I think it'll probably take care of itself because these guys can't stay healthy. So as soon as one guy comes back, another guy gets hurt. And that may be happening right now. Again, we have to see what Shanahan says about Jordan Watkins' injury. But, calves are tricky. That's going to be the slogan. That's going to be the mantra of the 2025 49ers. Calves are tricky.
You tell John Lynch
2025 season.
John Lynch said it. He's going to really love it if we make that their motto. That was his thing with the Juwan Jennings thing. I am wondering about Sky Moore because teams do just save a roster spot for a punt returner. It happens. It's not ideal. You can't get on the field in any other fashion. It's clearly they don't want him on the field, and all he's out there is to catch punts. I don't know what the greatest option out of that. I'm, sort of jokingly suggesting Junior Bergen. He certainly would not be on the field as a receiver, but it's a little perilous to be on a team with tons of injuries and all you do is catch punts. Like Trent Taylor was always, he played some third downs, right? They had guys in the past who can do some other things, just a little bit of an excess. It's like when, Shanahan hates having 2 kickers during training camp because he wants people to practice. Well, if you have one roster spot out of your 40, what is it now? 47, 48. I know they've added this whole extra tackle thing and all these extra roster spots, but it's a lot. It's a lot to when you got guys banged up and you're trying to figure out what to do with tackle, and you have one guy who just all he does is catch punts, and maybe you can just throw a guy back there who does something else and just have him fair catch, which is something they've kind of done in the past. I'm just curious. It's a real nitty gritty thing, but it's not very Shanahan to have a guy who just catches punts.
Yeah, although that's what Cowing did last year. He was only a punt returner, and then he got some late.
Yeah. At least he was on his way towards that, right? You could project him towards that.
Yeah,
I don't know that you can project Sky Moore. Maybe I'm being tough.
Poor Sky Moore just arrived here just the other day. He has no background in this offense, whereas an MVS has run this system in the past. Kendrick Bourne has run this system in the past. Sky Moore has not. But if you're kind of thinking about, okay, what could his future role be? I imagine he could do a lot of the things that Debo did: misdirection, catch and run, tunnel screen, things like that. He just has to prove to them that he knows the system. He can do it.
Yeah, and I agree. And more Ray McLeod, I would guess, just like Debo.
Exactly.
Debo did it at a really high level. The problem is, even with Ray McLeod, was if he can't do anything else, then the defense knows that's what's coming. And those plays are surprise plays. Those plays are not like, we're just going to run this play and you can't stop it. It's not, Texas versus, Texas State. This is and NFL linebackers can catch that, can stop that play if they know it's coming. So we'll see. I'm being mean. I'm sorry. Sky Moore, my apologies.
Sky.
Barrows will defend
the extra Y in Sky is, why are you being so
why?
critical of him?
Why, Sky? You'll be defended in the next Barrow solo pod. This is the one where I ding you, but all good. These are real. Middlecoff just praised us for the way we get down. We drill down to the very, very, very toughest details. So I just analyzed the punt return position. That's what I do. We forgot about Jacob Cowing, though. You mentioned all these receivers who could come back. Jacob Cowing's one of them at some point, right? I mean, or is he out for the year? I don't even know.
No, he's not out for the year, but I would say he's behind the 8 ball. He's out there running, doing side field stuff. He had a hamstring. Um, I guess it was like the very first day of training camp. So and then he tried to come back and then pulled it again. That's what happened. So basically double hammy on the same hamstring. So they're going to be extra cautious with him. I'd say he's still weeks, plural, away from being a possibility. But yeah, he's somebody else that could come back midseason. I mean, you got a lot of guys who are now in that week 6 to week 10 kind of range right now. Starting with Ayuk, and I don't know whether you saw the videos from yesterday's practice where he's basically right next to us and he's just zooming up and down the field. I wish my ACLs worked that well, and I could run that fast. But it tells me that I don't think he's very far away from coming back. David Lombardi, your colleague, did note that so week 4 is next week against the Jaguars, and then Ayuk is eligible to open his window and come back. But week 5 is a short week. It's a Thursday night game, so they don't really have any real practices in those scenarios. They have a walkthrough, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday. I forget which day of the week it is. So you would sort of waste a week where Ayuk theoretically would be kind of getting back into the swing of things, doing practice routes and things like that. If you started that window the Rams week. So the following week is a home game against the Falcons. I think. No. Then they go to Tampa Bay, and then it's the Falcons. So that Falcons game, week 7, primetime game, home game, that might be an Ayuk game.
All the 49ers health. They're all coming back, Barrows. They're going to have too many players. They're just going to they have to petition the league, try to get 50 active players because they're all going to be healthy. We shall see. All right, Barrows. You're just leaving people primed for the next Barrow solo pod. I count me as one of them. They're so easy on the ears. You don't have that.
I'm gonna do a little mandolin on my next solo one. See if the people like that.
You have us all in tears, as you always do. All right, everybody. That is the show for today. We'll catch you either Sunday night or Monday morning, recounting the 49ers game against the Cardinals, the Levi's season opener. All right. See you guys.